This video is a quick introduction to Spring Security using Kotlin. We will write a project with 2 web pages and 2 separate users. One of the users will be an admin and the other one is just a regular user. Both pages will require sign in, and additionally one of the pages requires admin privileges. So we can see it right here. If we log in with the admin, we will see that we land on the main page, and then we can navigate on the admin page and then log out. But if we log in with the normal user, the main page works, but on the admin page we get HTTP 403 forbidden. The user's credentials and their privileges are being loaded from a MySQL database, but we will not do a sign-up form in this video because I'm trying to keep it brief. If there's enough interest, I can make another video for a sign-up form. If you want to follow along with this video, you will need IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition installed and also access to a MySQL database that you can write to. The source code and all the URLs and resources we are using will be linked in the video description below. And if you want to support the channel, please like the video or consider subscribing. We have a lot of videos on Spring Boot and Kotlin already, and more are coming up. Thank you. We are going to start by initializing a new Spring Boot project. We are going to use the Spring Initializer. So if you search for Spring Initializer on Google, you will land on this web page. So from here, the Gradle Groovy is fine. We will select Kotlin. We need to provide an artifact name. Let's call it Security 101. And now for dependencies, we need to add the DevTools. This enables hot swapping in our project and makes development much faster and enjoyable. Then also we need to add web because our project will create web pages. Then of course we need to add Spring Security. And after that we need the JDBC. This will be used for loading the user credentials and privileges from the database. And also we will use a Liquibase migration for creating the initial tables, and also the MySQL driver. So this looks good. Now we just need to generate the project. It will prompt us to save it in a directory. And then we can just extract this directory and open this project with IntelliJ IDEA. You can use Community Edition, is free to download, and it has most of the features we need. So in here, like that. And it will take a couple of minutes for the project to be indexed. I will skip ahead a little bit. Next, we can create the 2 web pages in our project. So inside source main resources static, we can create 2 HTML files. So the first one will be index.html, and we will name this one main page as the title, and just inside the body we will have a header saying main page. And also we will do the navigation part. Navigation, it will just be a list with 2 links. So a ref index.html will be the main page, and then another one it will be to the admin page that we haven't created yet, but we will create. So admin dot, oh, this one needs to be an UL, and each of these entries will be LI, like that. And close it there as well. So this one will be admin, just like that. And we will do a second page in here, a new HTML file. So admin.html. This one will be admin page. Again, we put a header with admin page, and we can just copy that navigation part from index.html. Now we can try to start our project. So for this, we go to source main Kotlin, pretty much the only Kotlin file in our project. And there will be this triangle next to function main, and this one will create a running configuration in IntelliJ. So we can just try it out. Yeah, we see that we got an error, and this one is because we added the JDBC dependency to our project. And this dependency will try to start a database connection when the server is starting, but we didn't specify a URL for our database. And for now, just to continue, we can go to build Gradle, our Gradle file, and just comment out the boot starter data JDBC. And then we need to reload our Gradle file. There should be a button that says load Gradle changes, just to refresh our project. Okay, now if we try to run it again, yeah, we will see that now our project is started. So in here it says it started on port 8080. So if we go to a browser now to port localhost 8080, and let's say we try to access index.html, one of our pages, then we land on sign in page. This is because Spring Security adds by default all the pages in our project. It makes them protected by a sign in page. And we need to provide user credentials for this. Also, the default configuration for Spring Security, we have this user with the username user. And as password, there is this generated security password. So it is printed when the server starts. So if you look in here, it says started server on port 8080. And if you scroll up a little bit, you will see the generated password that we can fill in. So in here, we paste it there, and now we see our we can access both our pages once we are signed in. So we can go to the admin page, back to the main page, and so on. Spring Security also generates a logout page by default for us. And the path of that page will be just log out. And it will ask us to confirm that we want to log out. And yeah, we can link this page again as well to our HTML files. So in index.html, in here we can add a link with a ref logout like that. And also copy it to admin HTML. So now we only need to rebuild our project because DevTools will pick up the changes we made. And actually, every time we do this, a new password is generated. So make sure you use the latest password when trying to sign in again. So this will be user and the password. And now we see that we have the logout page on both the admin and the main page. And it works as expected. Next, we will see how we can make changes to this Spring Security configuration. So we are going to start by looking at the Spring Security reference. So if we search for Spring Security reference, I will link it in the video description. This is pretty much the manual of Spring Security. And we can take a look in here at servlet applications. And let's say in architecture, it describes a bit the principles of how Spring Security works. So one important idea is this concept of filters. This is actually a design pattern very common in web frameworks. What basically happens is that there's a request from the client to our server, and then we have a series of filters that add additional information to your request, or if your request doesn't comply with the rules of that filter, the filter can return early an HTTP status such as forbidden. So it's pretty much a series of computations. And if we scroll down, we will see we will see a list of some of the filters that are available. For example, there are filters to add cross-site request forgery, filters that perform username and password authentication, and so on. And also another important concept in Spring Security is this security context holder. So this is a place, I think it's stored in our thread, that we can access what security information the request has. So what is the username making the request, what permissions does he have, and so on. Now the question is how we can make changes to this security filter chain. And if we look in here in configuration, and in Kotlin configuration, this is the way in which we configure the filter chain. So there is a DSL for Kotlin, and this is an example where it pretty much says that all the requests need to be authenticated, and we will have a login form and support HTTP basic. So we can start with something similar. And the Kotlin DSL is something that was added more or less recently. Previously in Java, we had to use this format with the builders. It was a bit more cumbersome. The Kotlin DSL is actually quite nice. So in here in our project, we need to go to our Kotlin file and create a new configuration class. So let's call it security configuration. This one needs to be annotated with configuration. And we need to import it with Alt-Enter. This name, it can be a different name, it doesn't matter. You just need to add this configuration annotation. And now we can just do the filter chain. So just like that. Let's see. And this one needs to be annotated with bean, because its configuration needs to be picked up by Spring Boot. We need to make sure we import all these dependencies, all the classes. We add imports. So whenever it's underlined, you just do Alt-Enter and it does it. And now I think there's a issue in the documentation. I think they are missing this http.invoke for starting the DSL. Now we can see that everything is no longer red. So now we actually don't need HTTP basic, but we need a logout. We need a logout page, so we need to add it. And also here between the curly braces, we can configure. We will have the configurations for the logout form. For example, we can move it to a different page, and they have other properties as well. And yeah, this should be it. And one, I think in this case, because we added the new configuration, hot swapping will not work, but we can try it out. So if we build our project, yeah, we will get this. Actually, maybe it did work. Let's try it out. So if we are in here, again, we need to get our temporary password. So user, like this. Yeah, it did work. In some cases, when you see messages like this, it says negative matches, positive matches, condition evaluation. This means that hot swapping didn't pick up the changes, and what you need to do is just stop the server and start it again. Just do rerun your server, and that will work. But now we can try to configure our paths a bit. So right now, both our pages require authentication, but let's try to make the admin page not require authentication. So in here, in the filter chain and authorized requests, we can specify a page that we want to change the rules to. So in our case is admin.html, and the rule that we will do is permit all. So this will make it such that it doesn't require authentication. Here in the matchers, we can actually provide wildcards. So we can have like this, or we can have admin ***, and this will match all the paths under this directory, under the URL. But in our case, we will just keep it admin.html. And here for the rules, there are also different options. The main ones are authenticated, which means any user that is signed in can access it. Permit all, this is for public pages. Everybody can access it, even if it's signed in or not. And then we have more advanced one that we will use later in the video that require a specific role for a user. We can do something like has role admin. So if we have an admin dashboard, only the admin users can access it. But for now, we will just try the permit all. Let's see it like that. And now if we rebuild our project, okay. So now if we log out and we try to go to admin.html, we will see that the page works. But if we try to go to index.html, this will require login. Now we will see how we can configure the user source for our project. Spring Security by default adds that user source with one user and the password printed to the console at startup. But just like with the security filter chain, we can override this user source, and there are multiple options that we can choose from. So if we go back to the Spring Security reference documentation, in here in servlet applications, then authentication, and there's a section username and password. And in here, password storage. So there will be examples with the main options that we have. We have simple storage with in-memory authentication, and we're going to start with this one. And there's also another option that reads from the database. We are going to use this one as well. And user detail service is also usable, but it requires a bit more code to be written. So we're only going to look into these two. Okay, so in-memory authentication, as the name says, it's just a in-memory data source. So we can create a new configuration in here for bean. We're just going to use the Kotlin function already. And so in here it will be the username. And actually this example is perfect. There's the user, there is the password, and then the user can also have different roles. So there will be a user with just user role, and also an admin with both user and admin roles. So we can use this configuration in our Spring security configuration. We can add it here or create another configuration class. It doesn't matter that much. And in here, so the data source that we need to return is this one, user details service, and this will be a source that can be configured to database or in memory and so on. And yeah, we need to import all the classes that we don't have already. And yeah, now a bit of discussion about this password thing. So whenever we have a password, we need to encrypt it. We cannot leave it in plain text. That can be dangerous. Like if you push your code to GitHub, then someone can see your passwords. And that's why they added this tool. So if you want to replace it with a custom password, you need to run this Spring Boot command line interface. So there are instructions in here on how to install the Spring Boot CLI. I have it installed in my local machine. So if we type Spring, there's this subcommand in here that says encode password. So Spring encode password, and then we type in our password, let's say ABC, and then we just copy this encrypted password. The idea is that this encryption kind of only works one way. So if you have this string in here, you cannot recover the original password that generated it, but you can verify that a password matches this encryption. So we will copy this one from here and just replace it in our file. So the string that they provide in their in their example is just the string password encoded. We will see that it's exactly the same one from here. Oh wait, no, actually it's a bit different, but yeah, I'm not sure what string they used. We have to make sure that we don't clash with the Kotlin interpolation. So we need to, whenever we have a $sign and then a letter, Kotlin will try to do a string interpolation. So we need to just escape the $ character. And now we just copy that password ABC for both the user and the admin. And yeah, this should be good. Now we can try to rebuild our project, see if the configuration gets picked up by hot swapping. Yeah, it looks like this time it didn't work, so we will just need to restart our project altogether. Okay, and now if we try to, now we should have these users we just configured. So if we do admin in here and ABC, we will see that we logged into the project, and also user with ABC should work. Yeah, that worked. Now that we have roles for our user, we can also require the admin role for our admin page. So if we go back to the security filter configuration, in here we will replace the permit all for our admin page. We will replace it with has role. Let's see if it works. And admin. So if we save it, yeah, it should be fine. And now if we rebuild our project, okay. So if we log out from here, if we try admin with ABC, so the admin can access both pages. That is good. But if we try user with ABC, he can access the main page, but when we go to admin, it gets HTTP 403 forbidden, which is what we wanted. And also a note on the request matchers in the security filter. So you would add the more generic rules to the end. So we'll see that this one matches all the requests and also the specific rules at the top. And the last component of our project is replacing this user detail service from the in-memory version that uses this hard-coded list of users to the one that actually reads from the database. So if we go back to our to the Spring Boot documentation, in here under password storage, there will be JDBC. So the idea with this one is that this one is very strict. It expects these two tables at least in the database and an index. Additionally, there can be more structures in the database for groups and so on. We're only going to use these two tables, but as long as our data is in this format, then it requires very minimal configuration. So we just create this class, and that should be it. The first step is to re-enable the database connection in our project. So I will search for Spring Boot and MySQL. There should be a guide from spring.io. And yeah, if we scroll down, we are interested in the application.properties configuration that we need to add. I will link this page as well in the video description. Let's see. Yeah, here in the application.properties file. So yeah, we won't use the DDL for auto creating the database. We only need these three properties for the MySQL driver, specifying the URL of our database, username, password, so on. So we need these 4 lines transferred to application.properties. And in here, I will be using localhost if your database is at a different URL, then you can set this environment variable in the running configuration. And here we need to specify a database name right here. I will call this database Security 101. It doesn't exist, but we will create it shortly. For the username, the user that I'm using on my local machine is root. And I don't have a password. If you do have a password, then I will recommend you putting it in an environment variable, and then you go to edit configurations in here. And under environment variables, yeah, actually I can use it as well, db pass. Then you can fill it in here. I don't have a password, so I leave it blank. So we apply that. And yeah, this looks good so far. We can just restart. Oh, actually, we can stop our project for now. And then we need to uncomment the dependency we just commented at the beginning of the video. So this one with the Spring Boot Starter Data JDBC. And now we refresh. We click on this load button. So now if we start our project again, actually I think this time will fail because the database is not created, but we can see what happens. Yeah, it says unknown database security 101. So now in here, I can just connect to MySQL user root. I don't have a password. So I will do create database security 101. And now if I connect to security 101, if I do a show tables, there are no tables, but if I try to start the project, it should start successfully. Yeah, it failed this time because we don't have a Liquibase changelog. So we can add a Liquibase changelog to our project. We need to add a database migration to create the users and privileges tables needed for our store. And in here, under the source main resources DB changelog, we will add a file called Liquibase XML. And we need to, in application.properties, we also need to change the path to Liquibase. So it'll be Spring Liquibase dot change dash log, and it will be database changelog, and then the file we just created. This will be relative to the resources path. That looks good. And now we need to fill in the Liquibase file. So in here, I'm going to search for Liquibase Spring Boot. And yeah, I will link it in the description as well. And there should be this example with the XML with all the namespaces and so on. So in here, and we don't need this change set. We will add our own change set. So we just need this database changelog with all the imports. And now we can just create a change set in here. So the ID will be 1, author, your name. And here we will just paste some raw SQL from the Spring Security documentation. Let's see where it was. Yeah, there was in here the SQL that we can use to create our database schema. So in here, we just copy this one. The two tables, users and authorities. And in MySQL, I don't think we have this type varchar ignore case. So we're just going to leave it to varchar like that. We can save it, and yeah, everything else looks good. So now if we try to start our project again, yeah, we see that the change set was applied successfully. And if we go back to our database and we do a show tables, we see the two tables were created, users and authorities. And these other two tables, they are from Liquibase. They keep track of which migrations were applied. We also need to add some users to our tables. If we look now inside users, so if we do select star from users, we will see that they are empty normally. And in here, we can create another change set in our Liquibase. So in here, change set number 2, our name again, and we will do an insert into users. And so for the column username, this one, let's call it DB user, just to make sure we're not pulling them from the in-memory store. Before we will be sure that they are loaded from the database. Then we have column password. So in here we need to copy this encrypted password. Let's see if it copies it with the correct escaping. So in here in liquidbase.xml, yeah, it's not escaped correctly. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I can copy it from the from here from when I generated it first. We can see here it says Spring encode password ABC. So just copy the raw string from there, like this. So we will add another, oh, actually there's a third column in here. There's the enabled Boolean value. So we need to add column name enabled, and the value will be 1. And also we need to do another insert in here with the db admin, the same password. It will be ABC. And also we will add some authorities for these users. So in here we will do another insert inside authorities. So there are two fields, username, like that. So this one will be db user, and there's another column, this one called authority, like that. So now you might think that authorities are the same as roles. It's a bit different. So every role is an authority, but not every authority is a role. So if for any specific role, the corresponding authority will just have a prefix added at the beginning. So the role user will be converted into an authority called role underscore user. And this prefix can be configured, but we don't have a reason to configure it right now, so we will just leave it to role user. And yeah, I'm just making sure I spelled correctly the table name, like that. And we need to add 2 more authorities for the other user, for the admin. So the db admin user will have role user, and also it will have the role admin. And this looks good. Now we will try to restart our server. Yeah, so it says here that it inserted rows. And if we do a select from users, we see the users we just added. And if we do a select star from authorities, we see that also the authorities were added. And lastly, we need to switch our user source in the configuration to the database version. So in here in user details service, if we go back to the documentation and we scroll down for the user details manager bean, we will see that we need to this class needs a data source injected. So we return this one from here. We don't need to create these 2 users and add them to the details manager. We just need to construct the JDBC user details manager. So in here we can return this one. We comment out the previous in memory, so we need to import it. And also we will need data source in here, which is of type data source. And yeah, I think this should do it. If we rebuild our project, we see that it started successfully, and now we can do some final testing. So if we go to the root page, and if we try db, actually let's try the old user. So if we do user and password abc, this should fail because now our users have the db underscore prefix. Correct. If we do admin with abc, this should also fail. If we try db underscore admin with abc, this works, and he should be able to see both pages. Yeah, very good. And if we log out and if we try db underscore user with abc, he will see the main page, but the admin page should get a 403 status, which it does. So it worked as expected. That's it for today. There are more videos on Spring Boot and Kotlin. Some of them will show up on the screen. If you run into any issues or you have questions, feel free to post in the comment section below. And thank you for watching.